So have you ever just looked up at the night sky and felt small and wondered, what's my place in all of this? Well, today we're jumping into physicist Sean Carroll's book, The Big Picture, to tackle that exact question. How do we find meaning in a world that we now know is governed by cold, hard scientific laws?
Carroll kicks things off with a pretty intense personal story, a near-fatal car accident. One of those moments where a few inches, a slightly different speed, and his entire existence would have just ended. It's in moments like that, isn't it? When we're staring our own mortality right in the face, that all those big, abstract questions about life and meaning suddenly become very, very real.
For most of human history, our picture of the universe was, well, pretty cozy. It looked something like that image on the left. Earth was special, it was the center of everything, the universe was basically made for us. But then, science happened, and now our view is more like the one on the right. A mind-boggling cosmic web of billions upon billions of galaxies. Our planet? It's just a speck of dust, way too small to even see.
This is a huge shift, and it forces us to ask a really tough question. If we're just tiny creatures on what Carroll calls an insignificant planet orbiting a nondescript star, then what does that mean for us? Do our lives still matter? This is the central puzzle we're trying to solve. How do we square our need for purpose with the absolutely massive, indifferent scale of the universe?
Okay, so to even begin to answer a question that big, we have to start small, like really small. We have to start with the fundamental rules of reality itself. To get the big picture, first, we have to understand the microscopic laws that make everything tick.
Right at the heart of it all is something physicists call the core theory. Now, this isn't just some vague idea. This is an incredibly successful, rigorously tested model of the particles and forces that make up everything in our daily lives. I mean everything. The atoms in your body, the light hitting your screen right now, and here's the kicker. Within its domain, the world we live in, this theory works. Perfect.
Now here's where it gets interesting. The core theory doesn't just tell us what is true, it also tells us what isn't. The fundamental particles and forces we know about, the ones that make up you and me, well, they just don't have the ability to let you move things with your mind or have your future dictated by the stars. There's just no room in the physics of our everyday world for a secret force that could make psychic powers or ghosts a reality.
So if the basic rules are that simple and clear-cut, how on earth do you get from a handful of simple particles to the incredible, messy, breathtaking complexity of life? Well, the answer lies in a really crucial idea called emergence.
And this is a big one, right? It feels like a total contradiction. On one hand, we know we are just physical stuff, collections of atoms buzzing around. But on the other hand, we have these incredibly rich inner lives, full of wants and feelings and purpose. How can both of those things be true?
And the answer is emergence. See, the whole concept of you doesn't even make sense when you're just talking about individual atoms. It's not a property of a single quark or electron. But when you zoom out to a higher level, the macroscopic level, you become a very real pattern that emerges from the ridiculously complex interactions of all those atoms. It's a different and frankly a much more useful way of describing that same collection of stuff.
Think about the old watchmaker analogy. You find a watch on a beach, and you know it had a designer because it's so complex, right? It's not like a simple stone. But life, Carroll argues, is different. It is an incredibly intricate mechanism, but it didn't come from a designer's blueprint. It emerged naturally from the basic laws of physics playing out over billions of years of evolution. And unlike a fragile watch, life is flexible, adaptable, and can even repair itself.
All right, let's zoom in even further. We've gone from particles to life. Now let's go to the most complex emergent thing we know of, the human brain. Who or what is actually running the show up there?
So psychologists love to talk about two systems in our brain. There's system one, it's fast, it's automatic, it's our gut intuition. You can think of it as this giant, powerful elephant. And then there's system two, that's our slow, deliberate, conscious self. That's the rider on top of the elephant. Now here's the thing, that rider might think they're in charge, holding the reins, but let's be real, the vast, vast majority of the processing power, the real strength, lies with that elephant underneath.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Our conscious self, our sense of I, is often just along for the ride. It's like this tiny stowaway who's hiding out on a massive ship, and when it finally reaches its destination, the stowaway pops out and takes all the credit, completely clueless about the massive engines and the huge crew that actually did all the work. Our conscious mind is often the last to know what the rest of the brain has already decided.
Okay, so let's recap. We're living in a vast cosmos governed by impersonal laws.
That gives rise to unbelievably complex minds where our conscious self isn't even fully in charge. So if meaning isn't handed to us from on high, and it's not even fully dictated by our own conscious will, where does that leave us? This brings us to the final and most important part of this whole journey. When the philosopher Nietzsche wrote these famous and often misunderstood words, he wasn't celebrating. As Carroll points out, he was sounding an alarm bell. He saw this terrifying new challenge for humanity, living in a world where we can no longer look to some divine external source for our purpose or our morals. We're left on our own, feeling, as he put it, the breath of empty space.
And this, right here, is the crucial point of the entire book. Meaning is not something we find out there in the cosmos, like some hidden planet. It is something we create right here in our lives. Just like consciousness, just like love, purpose is a real and powerful concept that emerges as a way for us as humans to talk about and navigate our lives together.
Let's bring all this cosmic talk down to something deeply, deeply personal. 3 billion, give or take. That's about how many heartbeats you get in an average lifetime. Now, yeah, it sounds like a huge number, but it is also undeniably finite. It has an end. And in the grand scheme of cosmic time, it's over in a flash. This number isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to remind you just how unbelievably precious every single one of those heartbeats really is.
The philosopher Albert Camus used the old Greek myth of Sisyphus for this. You know the guy. He's condemned by the gods to forever push a giant boulder up a hill, only to have it roll back down every single time. It sounds like the ultimate punishment, right? But Camus flips it completely on its head. He says one must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because in a universe without a pre-written ending, the meaning is found in the struggle itself. It's found in the conscious choice to embrace your task, to find your purpose in the very act of pushing that rock.
So in the end, the big picture shows us a universe that doesn't have a purpose for us, but it's a universe that, through its own beautiful laws of physics and the magic of emergence, gives us the profound ability to create our own. We get to be the authors of our own meaning. The clock is ticking. You've got about 3 billion heartbeats. The real question is, what story are you going to write?